Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Monday night here on the St. Clair Saints broadcast. A little bit of a switch up tonight. Usually we've been having that Monday night Valorant here, but today we start NACE STARLEAGUE League of Legends playoffs, starting off that top 8. I'm here, Josh Fundy Pafundi, once again, joined by Adam Rare, Adam Trolls. How you doing tonight, Adam? This gonna be a game tonight.
Yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm really excited to see what the team brings out in terms of all the strategies and everything. We've seen this team do so well in NACE StarLeague specifically. 7-0 in terms of their series record, 14-0 in games, have not dropped a single game to anyone in this league, and really curious to see if they can keep that trend because this Kansas team, it's a strong team, no doubt, but we've seen the Saints go up against much stronger opposition and perform to that level as well.
Yeah, and I think that's just kind of a precedent these Saints have set, this LoL roster specifically. They've just kind of set this precedent of dominance from the second they stepped on the Rift in September. I mean, there have been teams that can come up and challenge them, and if any teams can, it's gonna be Kansas and more teams coming in this NACE playoffs here. But it's just they've set this precedent of dominance on the Rift.
And I think especially with the development of how the bracket ended up, the Saints really lucked out in a lot of ways because on their side of the bracket, they have Kansas as a matchup and very likely Florida Southern College, which I think out of the 4 top seeds is probably one of the weaker ones overall compared to the likes of Maryville as one of the other ones. Harrisburg, I think, comes in as a 2 seed in their group with Northwood as well. So overall, I think that the Saints are going to be very lucky with their bracket draw, but nonetheless, I think that they're still up to the task and hopefully going to be getting a trip to the semifinals and beyond after a performance tonight.
Yeah, for sure. But either way, it is still single elimination here in playoffs. So best of 3s. Team that loses is going to be sent home. Is it going to be your St. Clair Saints? Is it going to be Kansas University? That is the question that we are here to answer.
And realistically, I think that with these teams and how much development they've had, Kansas is a newer roster coming into it, but nonetheless, they've got a strong roster. It is a full master roster. They have started to offer scholarships, and I think, especially in that vein, you get a lot more diversity in what you'll be able to pull because we were just talking about this 5 minutes ago pre-show that Master has sort of become the minimum for a lot of these players to get into these scholarship positions or to get considered for any sort of amateur teams. I think that being able to find 5 really strong Masters players isn't always the easiest thing. There are Masters players who get there and maybe they're not up to that level, but realistically with how Kansas has performed thus far, they've only dropped a series to Florida Southern College. They've dropped a couple of games here and there. I believe one was to Northern Kentucky, another one to Cornell, but nonetheless, there could be substitutions coming in and out with that as well. I'm curious to see what roster they field tonight and what they're willing to put onto the table because nonetheless, it is quarterfinals, it is playoffs. People are going to be bringing their A game.
Yeah, and going back to that recruiting, I mean, yeah, you mentioned they're a brand new, or not brand new, but a newer roster, right? And it's hard for these schools to be, find this new roster, make it in a year or less, and then make it all the way to NACE StarLeague playoffs. So clearly Kansas is doing something right. And clearly, there's a reason they've come this far. So up here tonight, I'm expecting them to give the Saints some resistance because in terms of the season record, Saints, there's no resistance at all.
Yeah, and I think that the main thing that you bring up there is, these newer rosters that come through. Kansas isn't one of those schools that's been super hard advertising everything out there. It's not like a University of St. Thomas where they basically turned around a roster and won CELO off of that over a course of, a semester. But that was on the back of some really, really strong players. Shogo came through all of that. Kansas isn't one of those schools that was able to do that. And even still, we've seen the development of the Saints program. Even the last couple of years, there's been times where we look at the team and we're like, there are definitely things that we can improve. This team has looked a lot more cohesive, but there's still things that they can work off of. It hasn't been a flawless season for them thus far. There are still ways that they potentially lose the series, but realistically, in a vacuum, they should win on average more often than Kansas would.
Yeah. In a vacuum is the big one because in the end, like every game, it comes down to who shows up on the night and what team is ready to put their all in, and we are gonna find out just after we take a quick little break and then get this lobby set up, and then we will meet you back in draft. Here we go, everybody. Time for draft. We are going to have St. Clair College on the blue side of the map. University of Kansas finding themselves on that red side game one. We're going to get into draft in just a moment, but I know we had seen a little bit of these Kansas players before, and I know you had pointed out to me, one of them is a Vhagar one-trick, it seems, as well as Akshan, and then a Kindred one-trick in the jungle as well. So a lot of those spicy picks that we've been seeing in solo queue and even Kindred in Worlds, and now no longer Kindred in this game because St. Clair College has done their research. They're going to get that ban through. And gonna be responded with that Aatrox, another ban towards Ricky, the classic first ban towards Ricky, really.
Of course, and I mean, especially considering what we've seen at Worlds, I mean, I think recency bias is going to play a lot into that. Kindred, 100%. Very strong in the right hands, especially in the hands of a one-trick in that vein. The Aatrox as well, you know, so strong. We saw Kangan have a really strong performance on it. Who says Ricky can't do the same thing in that regard? But Lilia, this is an interesting ban because we talked about that Vhagar one trick. Samuel, up on that top side of the map, they've been playing a lot of top lane and they've been playing a lot of Lilia top lane. So they want to take that sort of agency away from that. But the Sylas ban, very expected. I mean, Sylas, so much healing. Oblivion Orb is a weak item right now. It's so difficult to deal with Sylas in the right hands. It really, you know, neuters a lot of comps because of the ultimates. You've got to worry about, you know, someone taking an ultimate that is better on the Sylas than it is on your own champions.
Exactly. And that's really the problem, right? Yeah, that hijack is just going to shut down your picks because now you're concerned about the enemy team having access to that. So shutting that down early, getting it out of Bakery Boy's hands, and then another jungle target ban. So it looks like they're really just targeting out this jungle in the first one from the Saints. That's the Bel'Veth coming through, and no Heimer game one, unfortunately. I mean, I know you saw World Finals. I mean, I loved to see that Heimerdinger support. Barrel came through with that pick, and it's just an awesome pick, honestly.
For sure. And I mean, no surprise here with the Caitlyn first pick coming through. You know, the range advantage that you're able to get on this champion is immeasurable in a lot of ways. You know, it's very likely that we see something answered very quickly in terms of the AD carry pool. You know, Caitlyn Varus was sort of those two top tier AD carries. The Lucian as well was thrown in there. And exactly as we expect, the Varus comes through. The main thing about Varus is that you've got three different builds that you can go for. You can go for an on-hit build, you can go for a lethality build, you can go for the AP build. All of them are very viable in that sense. The Karma as well going to be able to give you a lot of lane control in that sense. Caitlyn really likes to push lanes as quickly as possible. Karma prevents that because she pushes just as hard back, and she's able to get that money off of her spell thieves at the same time. But that's a spicy pickup. The Ashe coming through. That's going to be a support Ashe. They're just giving that away right away.
Yeah, they're just throwing that up, and really it's just, you know, to touch on that Karma in lane, it's just really to make that lane bearable for the Caitlyn. I mean, Karma going to be coming through with those empowered abilities all the way from level 1, and it just makes, even though you're not going to have an aggressive lane as Caitlyn, it just makes it tough in the end. Azir pick to come through. I don't think we've seen Bakery Boy on Azir just yet, have we?
We've seen it a couple of times come through. I mean, Azir just a really safe blind pick mid. You have a lot of playmaking ability. That's one of the ones we were worried about in a lot of ways. Akshan going to get picked up. There is an Akshan one trick on the side of Kansas there in that mid lane. So, you know, not really too much of a surprise in that regard, but it's a very strong champion. It recently got buffed to basically, you can spin around turrets forever.
Yeah,
like it's infinite. Yeah, there's been videos about it where he goes into the base, like just keeps spinning around and
basically Nyla with you. You're level 6 by like 2 minutes. It's amazing.
There's a lot of agency behind that, but of course now we see some of the bans coming through. You know, some more jungle target bans here. It's actually, that's technically five jungle bans with Sedge technically also being a top ban, depending on the player really, or just like the need of the team. But yeah, 5 jungle bans to come through from St. Clair College. I mean, they're confident in just winning those other lanes. It seems they're really targeting out that jungle. It looks like, you know, they've identified that jungler as the player that need to be picked off, and just, you know, the rest of the laners can deal with it. I mean, we've seen these lanes fight their way through, you know, even losing matchups before. Oh, yeah. And I mean, especially with these junglers that are picked up here, the main thing about Zach is that he's forced to engage so far away. Look at how long range the comp from St. Clair is already. You've got the Caitlyn, you've got the Ashe, you've got the Azir, all of them poking from afar. And now you add in this Nocturne who's going to make everything go dark on the map. What that means is that Caitlyn can auto-attack from out of vision range when the Nocturne ult is down, which means Varus can't see them, Akshan can't see them. All of this dive potential is negated because this Caitlyn can stay so far back, stay so safe in these situations. The Scion versus the Fiora matchup is a little bit of a worry, though, because Fiora really going to be putting down the hurt onto the Scion. Realistically, it's a very free lane for the Fiora in that sense. With the Aatrox taken off the table, you don't really have that as sort of a answer, but even then Fiora likes that matchup as well. Realistically, you had a blind pick a top laner, and Scion going to be one that's safe. It affords your team that sort of front line as well, and very likely we're going to see this Nocturne go for what should be a stride breaker, a little bit more of a beefier build, just to be that sort of secondary front line.
Yeah, for sure. And then, yeah, I think that Fiora really just came in to be able to say, all right, well, you want to side lane it? We'll side lane it. Like, I'll pick one of the best side laners in the game. Fiora can come through there and really just meet Ricky wherever Ricky decides to go. He's going to Scion all down a lane eventually and just try to pick up plates, pick up a turret, pick up an inhib, right? Just Scion things in the end, right?
Yeah, and I think realistically, you look at this team comp overall from the side of Kansas, it's a lot of comfort coming through. The main thing I'm concerned about is your lack of magic damage coming through. You look at that comp, you have the Zac as sort of a magic damage dealer. It almost feels
Akshan.
like Akshan does a little bit of magic damage. The Karma going to be sort of your main AP threat, which is a little bit strange. Granted, there has been a little bit of a rise of, this AP Karma support going first strike, going Night Harvester, going really aggressive. I'm curious to see if that's going to be the option that they go for in that regard. Nonetheless, we'll have to find out exactly what these players are going to go for, because both comps, they've got their strengths, they've got their weaknesses. Just want to see them on the Rift first.
Yeah, and right before we head into the Rift, we are going to have just a little bit of a tech pause here, so we are going to throw it to a quick break, but we will meet you on the Rift when the action starts. All right, we got that pause all sorted out, and now we're here to start some of this action. Ricky and Samuel already spotted each other out, but I mean, these aren't the champions that are going to be going for a 1v1 brawl like this. Ricky's not on Darius. Come on.
I mean, looking at the rune choices, though, I want to point these out for the viewers out there. Interesting to see that Snovo there in Moonglade, they went for double comment in that bot lane. What that means is this lane really wants to try and get the laning advantage. You take those runes to really try and stomp your opponents in that regard. Interesting choice into the likes of a Caitlyn Ashe, where they have just as much poke and just as much pressure in that lane. But you can see Rockboom already very concerned about that. You see the exhaust coming through, the fleet footwork coming through, as opposed to something like the lethal tempo that would give you a little bit more agency. And with that comment build, it's very likely we see lethality Varus. This rose up a little bit at the end of Worlds. Deft played it. I believe Guma played it one game as well, where you just get so much damage off of your poke, and it really helps into a team comp that is going to play so far back. This Varus isn't going to be afforded the ability to just auto-attack a lot in these fights, so he's forced to go for this lethality build to get as much damage out from the safest distance possible.
Yeah, and I mean, really, they've got that action on mid from Jace there as well, so they don't necessarily need all of that crazy on-hit attack speed from the ADC, and that poke will definitely come in to round out their comp in team fights. But yeah, that double comet in the bot lane is definitely going to make these pokes just hurt a little bit more on a race coming through. Obviously, Rockboom does have that fleet footwork. I mean, he's going to be able to out-sustain a lot of it just with that rune alone. But Erase might find themselves back in a little more than they expected coming into this game.
And something that's really interesting is Erase is an AD carry main. So, I mean, they know how to play Ashe. They know how to pilot it. Granted, this is going to be in a little bit of a different role. You see the Halo Blades coming through, very likely Ultimate Hunter in the back to try and drop that arrow as much as possible. But this is exactly what we're talking about. This is why we've seen this Karma rise so much in priority. Look at the wave shove. Caitlyn is never shoved into her own tower unless it's against a lane like this, where the Karma is able to consistently harass, push the lane while dealing a whole lot of damage with that. Those inner flames just keep going down onto the minion wave, forcing Rocco to not only miss out on CS, but also take damage in the meantime.
And then, of course, as well, you're seeing every 8 to 10 seconds that Varus Q coming up. You can already see the health deficit that the Saints find themselves in, but Rockmove actually opted for Longsword 3 pot, so that should give him, like, even just that little bit longer in that lane to be able to just sustain it out, get your health back, because the Doran's Blade, yeah, it's going to give you that Omnivamp, but the health pots are more consistent.
And hot take, I mean, Doran's Blade is just probably the worst starting item in the game right now. It's really bad. And realistically,
Fair.
even in the mid lane here, seeing this Akshan go for the Doran's Blade as opposed to something like even the Doran's Shield into something like the Azir, or just going Longsword and going aggressive at that, it's a little bit interesting, but Erase taking some damage. But look, the Nocturne is a bot side. Curious to see if they're going to make something out of this.
Yeah, and you already saw, that's the one thing I like about the Akshan. You saw that in that little glimpse mid, just 1-2, you throw that boomerang, you get your proc, and 90% of the time, you've won that trade. Already kind of evening out health here. Bakery Boy had to pop that pot as well, and now this is where that Omnivamp is going to come in a little bit. Alonso creeping up in this bush, but it looks like that Scuttle might have spotted him out, as Jace seems like he already knows. I mean, they saw that Nocturne bot side from Moonglade and the rest. Now Alonso just going to come up, find this top crab, whereas Erase might have to find themselves hitting that back button soon. There's the channel to come through.
I think overall there's a lot to like for what the side of Kansas has done thus far. They've gotten themselves effectively to winning lanes. You can already see Ricky was forced to back off. The Fiora up in CS as well. Even in the mid lane, Baker Boy needs to be careful of this damage. Oh my goodness.
Like, the character is just so oppressive in lane, and it feels like even when you're behind, as long as you're hitting those procs on the passive, it doesn't really matter what items you have, as long as you proc that enough. I mean, you use that swing, you get enough hits coming down, and you're going to win that trade. Bakery Boy pulls out the back. The TP is going to come through as well, and now Jays is going to find themselves not with a reset, actually. Bakery Boy just going to cancel that out.
And, I mean, thus far, it's exactly what we're expecting. Granted, topside, this might be a little bit of a worry point.
Yeah, could see something happening soon. There's the leap, and that knock-up going to come through as well. Ricky forced to burn the flash. Looking to meet up with Alonso, but that ward placed there, most likely by Samuel, is going to be the savior there. Not going to be baited into that counter gank just yet. Alonso is going to come help shove out that wave and just back off. Back down the river.
I mean, thus far, just a really strong early game coming through from Kansas. They've really put St. Clair in a little bit of a pickle in terms of some of these lanes. One thing to mention, look at that bot lane. 2 longswords plus boots versus a serrated dirk plus the tier already coming through on this Varus. Snovo has been having a great time thus far. Really good gank on the top side from Porcelain as well. You can see Alonso just trying to power farm as quickly as possible, get to that level 6. That's where Alonso's going to turn online and really be able to put the hurt down. But even then, top side forced to burn the flash. Mid lane, Azir's been forced to take an extra back than expected, and now it's just affording Jace so much more room to shove out this lane and now start to look for roams around the map. Akshan, really not the strongest laner, as we've seen, done quite well at winning those laning trades, but very good at roaming around the map. You have infinite stealth when you're next to a wall or a bush.
Infinite stealth, as well as the one thing I feel like a lot of people forget, that comes with mana regen as well. So it means that's just extra time where you don't have to back, right? It's just one extra roam you get to come through. At least you can come back up and clear out that wave because you don't need to back for that mana. First drag should come through for Porcelain here, and the team, they're going to come through. Alonso, he's on his Krugs, but really they just don't have the priority to even fight this out, right? First straight, you just got to give that.
And you can see it's level 6 on Alonso right now, level 5 on Porcelain. They spent a lot of time looking for these ganks and everything, which don't quite work out. Ricky, nice nice decimating smash there. But now, level 6 on this Nocturne. Are they going to pull the trigger on this bot lane? They need to make something happen because, as you can see, they're sort of bleeding out on this bottom side of the map. They lose that dragon just because of lack of priority. And even then, Caitlyn wants to be further ahead in this lane. Ashe was forced to pick up a Ruby Crystal as their first item as opposed to something like a sword or anything like that. So just trying to survive this lane as much as possible. Seems like Alonso not going to pull the trigger yet.
Yeah, Alonso, I think that first gank that uses that darkness from the Nocturne is really going to be the critical one. If that can break that first blood barrier, because, you know, even in these, you know, winning lanes, Kansas City not necessarily finding the gold lead. There's just too much gold now on Bakery Boy. You see that 63 CS, just even CS around the map, whereas you had touched on that Zach spent a little too much time trying to find those ganks, a little too much time in that bush and top lane. It just let Alonso become 1-2 camps ahead of him, and now got that slight gold lead for the team, although starting to even out just a little more. But it's really going to be this first kill to come through that's going to flip that gold lead on its head.
Yeah, and realistically, it's a good job from Rocket Boom to get back in this lane a little bit more, get a little bit more agency for themselves. Now you see the pickaxe in tow. It means that the effective damage on both sides of this lane is pretty even at this point. Granted, there's still level 6 coming through on Snowball at this point. There's a little bit more room for the Varus to look for an angle to go in. You know, there's no cleanse picked up on Rock Boom here. There is that way that they get locked down with the Chain of Corruption and they just die off of it, but nonetheless, Hayes going rogue right now. We'll see if they try and make anything happen here, because as you can see, Porcelain is doing this fully on vision. Oh my goodness.
Coming up to mid as well. Porcelain, Ricky is there, but can't necessarily fight as it's been Bakery Boy just being zoned off. Look at that vision coming through for University of Kansas right now. I mean, we saw Jace just sitting there beside the wall in stealth. That's that infinite stealth you were talking about. Bakery Boy can't walk up the river, or else he's just going to find himself taking so much unnecessary damage. Can't really support Ricky. They have to give up another objective over towards the side of Porcelain, and now that rift can come through. If now, on the flip side of that Nocturne R, if this first kill does come through for University of Kansas, with Jace possibly could find right now, but that's a lot of damage under tower coming through. Jace just barely going to live out that one, but the wave still going to be pushed in. Possibly another plate found here for the bot lane of St. Clair College. Now Rock Boom, you know, coming a little bit back into this game.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting macro call to move that bot lane up towards this Herald, because Herald is always guaranteed 2 plates at the very least. You get 2 plates on the opposite side of the map, though. You put that into the Caitlyn, and Caitlyn loves to take early plates. We saw this, you know, it's a strat we saw at Worlds, you know, just give the Caitlyn as many plates as possible, move around the map, get her as much gold as possible, and that's exactly what Saints are doing here. Snovo doesn't get anything off of this Herald. Objectively, they are not going to end up ahead of this. They might get a little bit more of that CS back in their favor, but nonetheless, Rock Boom and Erase are now back in this game. Curious to see how Ricky gets out of this one, though.
Yeah, there's another gank coming through from the Zac. No minions there to be able to queue onto, but the ultimate just going to be popped, but that's just going to be popped for just about nothing, as Ricky can pretty well just start charging towards his tower, just march his way there and not have to worry about it. Even as Lethality Scion, those last hits are going to give you so much extra health from that passive that he's just going to be chunky in his own right. There's the ultimate from the Varus, burned. That's going to be Jace coming through, but Nocturne here for the counter gank. There's the Ashe ultimate. There's first blood to come through onto the Varus. Nocturne going to have to flash that out. Alonso should be able to find a second one there. Double kill for Alonso. There's the slow coming through from Erase. Should be able to save Alonso as well. Porcelain can't find his way there, and that is going to be a 2-for-0 for the side of St. Clair College. That is where this game's advantage is going to start coming through. Ricky might even be able to find something here. Is going to fall, but we all know Zombie Scion can sometimes put in some work, and there's the kill to come back. Finds a little bit of CS as well before he fades away.
Yeah, honestly, really well played all across the map from the side of the Saints. Good bait coming through on this bottom side. The Varus ult misses, and I think at that point, we'll get back to that.
Porcelain coming back in. This is going to be that turbo ganking Zac we always see. Jace coming in on the roam as well. The double kill to go over to University of Kansas, trading it right back. We're back down to 3-for-3, but the gold lead still about 1.5k in St. Clair's favor.
And now we'll just talk about what's happened on the screen. Porcelain going to drop that Rift Herald, and now some plates are going down. Alonso, though, might be in trouble. Are they going to be able to hold it?
Alonso might have put himself in a tough situation here, but the TP to come through.
Bakery
Boy, there's the ultimate to come through.
Oh!
The Ash, the shuffle! So big onto 3 of them. Gonna find that kill onto Jace. Can this Zac get out in time? That's the E to come through. Zac passive still up as well, so he's got so much time to work with, even if he does fall. Snow Ovo might be able to find a little bit of plates in the mid lane while all of that shenanigans just happen bot lane.
Yeah, and wow, good parry coming through from the Fiora, but so much to break down there. Honestly, great initial engage coming through on sort of the re-engage after Novo drop down the ultimate. You're able to re-engage with the Ash Arrow, the Nocturne, and everything. It's just a little bit of an overstay. You don't respect the Zac gank. Zac always ganks from the strangest of angles. It's sort of like playing against the Fiddlesticks. You need to put wards in different spots, and it makes it really difficult to track down where that jungler is. They end up getting rewarded with 3 kills in return, but now map state sort of going back to a little bit even. There's a little bit of a gold lead now coming through for the side of the Saints here, but even then, a lot of that is on Bakery Boy, who's now, a substantial amount of CS up against the likes of Jays, but nonetheless has not picked up their Mythic yet, so a little bit of a combat disadvantage for the time being. Bakery Boy's got to get out of here, though. This might be a bit tough.
Jays is able to cancel that back, but not going to find much more. What that does do, though, is secure the Dragon for the side of University of Kansas. 2 out of 4 to Soul now. We're going to see which Soul comes through, and it's Hextech. That could be a good one to find 4 of Saints are able to just have priority on these objectives coming up. I mean, you've got the gold lead now. You've got that crown onto Bakery Boy here. Bakery Boy should have a little bit more presence into these team fights when they're not found in the side lane. But other than that, in terms of objective, University of Kansas has just been completely controlling it.
And the main thing to keep in mind is, look how many plates have been taken across the map by St. Clair. It's 9 plates in favor of the Saints here. That's a huge amount of gold that's been infused into them. And a lot of that is just because of some overcommitments on the opposite side of the map from Kansas. What that means is Bakery Boy, despite them not getting any kills or anything, they still are very close in the gold department. Caitlyn is ahead of the Varus now, even though they had a really rough early game, and even still on that top side, despite sort of solo killing and solo dying on that top side, it's still a gold advantage going the way of this Scion. Realistically, though, the jungle is the main difference right now. Nocturne's able to farm so much quicker, able to get so much more agency around the map. Even though first tower goes the opposite way into that Akshan's favor, you still got this Nocturne that can lock them down in the later stages. You need to start the fight in stealth so that you're not locked down by this Nocturne. It's still going to be really difficult if you're sort of going stealth halfway through a fight, because the Nocturne will lock onto you and you're going to die.
Yeah, and that's the thing. With this gold lead, you think St. Clair would want to fight out some of these dragons that have been coming up, but realistically, the team just hasn't been in position for it, and Kansas has been grouping up for all of these. We saw them send that bot lane all the way towards mid to be able to get that priority to grab the Rift Herald when it came through, and that brought them back in the gold, in the gold race. They're not going to find the lead. They're only going to be a little bit lower, though, with 2 dragons to their name, which is not bad to be at.
And now all 5 Saints going to be on this top side. We might actually get a huge fight here. Everyone is around this Herald. This could get spicy really quickly. Look at where Ricky's positioned.
Ricky, big hit onto Snovo there. That Varus going to be chunked down to half right about the start of this fight. Herald just going to be targeted by the side of the Saints. Alonso looking to secure this one out. There's Porcelain to come through. Who won the smite fight? I couldn't tell myself, but Porcelain taking a lot of damage to come through. It was the Nocturne to win that. There's the Darkness going to be coming down. Will the Zac fall? Wow, so much damage to come through from another Ricky Q. Ricky LaFleur gonna fall. Alonso being targeted out. It's a race to fall immediately, but all of these Kansas members are so low. Rock Boom's still full. Can he auto them out? Is this gonna be a 3-4-0, or can Rock Boom find something? There's the first one to come through. You've got so much range on this Caitlyn, but now that Varus Q is threatening when there is an eclipse on the board. Jace to come through. This could be, wow, the double to come through. What a flash! Oh, he took the flash. That wasn't his own flash.
Yeah, and a disastrous fight at the back end of that for the side of the Saints. You know, they put so many resources into that. All for a Zac passive. The Zac still had passive left up and available. Does fall in the end as they take down the blobs, but nonetheless, you get the Herald. I think you just get out afterwards. They see the Zac, 40% HP. They full commit on it, and there's just too much health on the opposite side. The Akshan thriving in these chaotic fights. So much value coming out from the Karma of all people. And at the end of that, look at the gold lead now that Jays has picked up for themselves. 2,000 gold over the lane opponent. We talked about how the side lane is going to be so much more difficult. Now you've got this Fiora pushing a side lane. You've got this Akshan pushing on a side lane. The 1-3-1 from Kansas is going to be so difficult to deal with. And with a minute until this Dragon, the Saints need to try and get as much gold as possible into their coffers to make sure that they can fight this fight.
Yeah, 2-item Akshan. I mean, regardless of the enemy team, regardless of their position, if they're sitting at 1 item apiece, this Akshan is going to be able to play the rest of this like it's a solo queue game. Just start roaming around the map, play in stealth, play to your advantage, and the second you find that one player caught out, boom, executed, right? And it comes through, and now that gold lead is just going to keep getting bigger. I mean, Kraken Slayer Bork already, we're 17 minutes in.
And of course, can't forget about the revive that Akshan's able to put down. So, I mean, even if this Akshan is sort of the last one left standing, if you're taking down a key member, you can potentially revive your team. And it's more so in these chaotic fights where they will matter. The Fiora has the teleport to potentially get back into this. No, Porcelain, if they're able to resurrect in a fight, if it's chaotic enough, you've still got enough agency to get around the map. You can see Rift Child being dropped, but it's traded on that top side of the map. And while the Saints have prio over this, once again, these fights that come afterwards are going to be so difficult. And even then, with this distraction, it doesn't even get the charge. They don't get the tower, so it's a net negative play thus far. And even still, look at where Jace is set up.
Yeah, Porcelain is getting ready for this leap onto the Dragon. Blue team gonna find the smite there to come through. Alonso, he's too quick on that F key. Notice how I said F key because it's not F for flash. There's the ultimate to come back in. There's the pick to come through from Bakery Boy to make it a 1-for-0 in that fight, finding the Hextech Dragon as well. Gonna be able to push out this mid lane, possibly even find this tower against this low health bot lane left. There's the flash to come over from a race. Porcelain, you've got no passive. That's a tough position to be in, but Jace, look at that damage. The revive comes through. The scoundrel has been found, and that bounty has been claimed.
Yeah, really rough overextension once again. Porcelain has faith in their mid laner to continuously find that resurrect for them, and unfortunately, it's Rockboom getting a little bit too aggressive. They use that Gale Force forward or aggressively in that to try and finish off that kill, and while Bakery Boy was able to find that kill before that, it's still a little bit rough around the edges on the play. You get the Dragon, but at what cost? You lose your AD carry once again, and every single time Kansas are able to punch back, punch back, punch back. The gold is still even, though. I'm curious to see what the next steps for this team are, because there is still standing gold around the map for St. Clair. Notably, that mid lane tower is still up and available for the taking. Once you take that, it opens up the map so much more. I think you have to start to look to Bakery Boy to really be that trigger to get in there, look for the fight start, because realistically, these long-range engages, the Ash Arrow, the Nocturne, it's making it difficult for everyone to catch up. And that's the difficult part about the fact that Kansas were able to answer with all of this range. Snovo was just able to sit so far back that even if they get caught with the arrow, they're still a really far distance away from everyone else.
Yeah, and here's Jace to come in. That swing starts, but the soldiers are gonna have to be used in order to stifle that engage, but dropping an ultimate, and you get that 3-man top info, that's pretty good for the rest of the team. It's going to allow Rockboom to even just get a back off here, as nothing's really going to happen around the rest of the map. But either way, I think the big thing is just going to be pick out Jace in these fights. I mean, he is all of the damage of Kansas right now. That Fiora still gonna have to wait a little bit longer, just a little bit longer, to become that team fight monster. And of course, that Varus still only sitting at an item and a half. So the lethality damage, yes, it's going to come through, but the main source of damage right now is Jace, and that's the reason these fights have been so valuable, because they take that kill. We saw Rockboom in the mid lane find the kill, and immediately Jace comes through with that res, but Alonso just going to make the screen dark and send Snovo to a gray screen once again. Quick pick to come off. The Ash Arrow didn't even need to hit that time, just raw tower dive, and the attack speed from that Nocturne is going to take him down. Samuel, I mean, I'm never expecting any of these side lane fights to turn into anything. Often, we might see a solo kill come through from Samuel, and then that trade back from Ricky in the zombie form, but Lethality Scion into this Fiora. It's just so much wet noodle fight, and there is that turret to be destroyed.
Yeah, finally taken down there. And I mean, I want to point out that the Ashe has so much more value than we're seeing here, because the Hawk shots, every time they go through, it's really hard to figure out exactly where that vision is coming from the Ashe. But a lot of times that's your tracer dart to say, hey, Nocturne, there's someone left alone there. Let's go in on that play. Yeah. It's the trigger for the Caitlyn dart and everything. But look at this play. Jace going rogue. Let's see if they can find the play.
Yeah, Jace, there's the auto attacks that come through, and no swing needed. Alonso already half health from that, and that just comes from the straight up item advantage right now. Akshan going to be putting through so much damage, and yeah, really main idea for St. Clair right now is if you find yourself in a team fight, try to take down Jace, or at least, you know, save that wall of soldiers, save that shuffle to be able to get Jace out of position. Don't let that swing come through, because the second Akshan finds resets, the damage is not going to stop. We see the last Whisper bot as well. That's just going to keep coming through and compound on to that damage as well from the Akshan. It's brutal.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what the next steps for this team is. At least from Kansas as well, because I want to see what their game plan is come the later stages. I think one of the main trends that we've seen a lot of these teams do is they have a set play for 20 minutes. They're able to play their first 20 minutes of the game extremely well, but once it gets to this mid-game, once it gets to the later stages, your experience starts to dwindle at that point. Sometimes a lot of these teams aren't able to get the highest level scrims, and you just play 20-minute games and you stomp them. You're like, okay, we don't have any strategy set up. Now, though, you can see Saints are starting to bring it back just with their experience.
Yeah, Jace caught out in the side lane, and that's going to come through. The teleport to come through as well, but Samuel teleporting a little bit too deep in there. There's 5 members from the Saints now around this drag. They're going to be able to just melt this one out. Porcelain, no one left on the enemy team who can really contest this at all, and that's the pick that they needed. Find Jace with that Hawkshot, like you said. The second you spot him out, have the team collapse. This Nocturne ult putting in work.
It's exactly what the team needs to do as well. You know, all these long-range ultimates, find the picks. Yeah, Ricky's just going to play distraction here. Porcelain should not be fighting this. They should just be trying to find any sort of angle to get into this pit. But once again, Varus and Baron steals. We've seen a lot of those recently. I'm curious to see if Snovo has the tech to be able to do this. Might be able to do this.
That's a lot of damage from Snovo to come through. The lethality. Varus putting in work. There's the cancel from Ricky, but Jace is back up. This is going to be a lot of damage compounded onto Ricky in a short amount of time. Has a teammate to tank for him there, so it's not going to be too much, but the respawns come in time to be able to knock the Saints off that Baron. Saints still sitting pretty with a 3K gold lead, but not all of the priority you wanted. You wanted to find that Baron and just be able to keep this lead rolling. Now it's going to be Rockboom and the rest having to just go back to farming up these jungle camps, farming up these waves, because you lost a raise. You lost a lot of your team fight CC.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing there, arrow not quite going to land onto the Akshan there as they went for the long range play, but nonetheless, should be able to get out perfectly fine. There's a lot of things to like about what Kansas did. They were able to hold off that Baron push for so long. I mean, Porcelain was just sort of biding time at trying to, you know, keep even the Scion away, but good thing that came through was Snovo able to land that Chain of Corruption over the wall. All those blight stacks stacking up onto someone like a Race. That's just going to one-shot them at the end of it, even with all the resistances that are getting shredded from the Baron. So nonetheless, good play from Kansas to prevent that Baron. But nonetheless, these fights are starting to go back in the way of St. Clair. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that Rockboom now working towards that Infinity Edge. Once the Infinity Edge is complete, we're going to see a huge spike in damage come through from the Caitlyn. Really just going to be cutting through this front line a lot better. And you look at the Zax's itemization here, sort of going for the Garage Sale. Hasn't quite committed to that Thornmail yet. Looks to be building that right there, but also has that Kindle Gem to potentially go for the Chains. I'm curious to see if they opt for the Chains or if they opt for the Warmogs, if they opt for that Thornmail, what they opt to go for here, because even if you get that Thornmail, there's the Azir to worry about. If you get the Warmogs, you know, there's just the burst damage that can come through. If you go for the Chains, you have to worry about the other person you're not putting chains on. There's so many different factors in terms of the itemization that Porcelain needs to consider before finishing whatever item they choose.
Yeah, and that indecision coming through is going to leave them with just a little bit less value in terms of the items. You're not going to get a full item's worth of a passive. You can see this gold coming through. Akshan still got most gold in the game, but Rock Boom trying their damnedest to catch up here. And of course, Sion, I mean...
Yeah, Ricky's the richest person in the game. How did this happen?
Really?
Wait a sec.
Yeah, 11,300, just a little bit more than that Action. I mean, it's just Sion things, really.
Yeah. I mean, Ricky's just done a great job of opening up the map and being able to match Samuel in this side lane. I mean, look at the build that's come through. It's a Youmuu's, it's a Frostfire, it's a Titanic Hydra. This is quite literally the boss build.
Yeah.
Without the, like, it's the one that he builds against things like Fiora so that he doesn't just insta-die when he pops Prowler's Claw. The arrow, very ambitious at that, but nonetheless, you can just see such a menace in the side lane, and it's forcing Samuel to play extremely defensively. This Fiora's supposed to be hard winning this matchup at this point in the game, and I think it's a little bit of pressure onto Samuel to be like, wait a second, I'm not winning these trades as often as I want to. I want to be able to sort of 1v1 the Sion and win every single time, and I'm not. So they need to send 2 people for the Sion. It opens up this Baron so much more, and every single wave that Ricky pushes in, he's just threatening another tower because Sion, we know what they can do to those towers. The ultimate just crashes into towers and does so much damage as well. There's so many different angles for Ricky to play this game out, but all of them include the side lane. Almost none of them involve actually being in a team fight.
Yeah, and as you were talking about earlier, Rock Boom now finish that IE, and the damage spike is definitely going to be real because I just spotted out an 1100 damage crit headshot on to one of those minions there. So, I mean, just compared to just a 2-item Caitlyn, I mean, the spike is so large, and then, of course, it's still Caitlyn. It's hard to go in on a Caitlyn. They have so much range. Yes, you have Jace. Yes, you have Porcelain, a lot of these dive champs, but you can't really do much when there's still a team around.
Oh my.
Ricky already going to be fighting Samuel. That's the ultimate to come out. Just going to have to run away from this one. Yeah. Super slow.
That wasn't even the ultimate. That was just 3 vital
That was
procs.
that was just the Youmuu's proc.
Yeah, that was the Youmuu's proc, but on the flip side, it was the Bork getting the Bork passive coming through. This is the issue with that matchup. Fiora starts to have their way once they get level 15, once they get level 16, because those vitals mean so much more. Look at the fight.
There's the shovel to come through, saving Rock Boom. In the end, Alonso, the darkness, gonna shut down this team fight about as fast as they can, but the trade back from Jace is good. A race, no arrow up to be able to help out the team there, and in the end, it turns out to be a 1-for-1 with a solo kill on the other side of the map. Of course, the res does come through, so that 2 kills from the Saints essentially turns into 1 by the end of the fight. Jace, okay, so the back did come through, but now Erase and Bakery Boy are just about to get pinched by the entire team of University of Kansas right now. Erase just pops to that Action. The 3 items now fully built on the Action. Still just an absolute threat the second they click that stealth key. Rock Boom, you're going to be found out as well. So many kills coming through from this Action. Going to go golden as Bakery Boy, but it's too little too late. 5 players on you. What can you do? Ricky able to find a tower on this bottom side to be able to keep, once again, just keep the gold rolling for the team. But now, sole point for University of Kansas once this next dragon comes up. St. Clair College really going to have to start prioritizing that unless they're okay with giving up that Hex Soul. There's the dance to come through. So much true damage. The ultimate going to have to be burned this time. And now, absolutely melting the Baron is University of Kansas. The route to come through, the ult to come through. Alonso, this could happen, but the smite from Porcelain is good. No steals today. We leave that to the weekend. It is done. No more Baron steals after Saturday night. Alonso not going to find that one and going to fall in the process. And now St. Clair kind of on the back foot here. University of Kansas has all the time in the world and all the map presence in the world to really be able to do whatever they want right now.
Yeah, they basically get 3 minutes of free time to do whatever they so desire with any of these towers around the map. I'm really looking towards this Fiora now, who's hit 3 items. She is a menace in the side lane. The Sion not really set to match up against her now. Now you have to consider sending Bakery Boy down there, but Bakery Boy's engage very easily telegraphed as well. You know, as soon as soldiers are starting to move behind you, just drop that riposte, and you prevent Bakery Boy from really setting up for any plays. So now, going to be incredibly difficult for the side of St. Clair to just hold the door, stall the bus out a little bit here, because now the siege is going to be be so much more difficult. You can see how many, all this range that comes down, all this poke, it's doing so much more at this point against the side of St. Clair, because you look at their comp, even the Scion's not actually that tanky, just really trying to take down these towers. Granted, Ricky Liffler are doing exactly that.
I mean, big Demolish proc coming through, but
Ace Rush.
that Fiora ultimate is so much damage, so much true damage to come through. I mean, I'm pretty sure it can get up to like something like 90% true damage. It's wild. Erase took so much damage from those Qs. The shovel is good onto one, but Bakery Boy has to go golden and is now stuck against Jace in that jungle lane there. Not able to do much. Jace is able to throw an ultimate back, but Ricky now stuck inside 3 of them. Gonna just pop to this Akshan. Akshan cannot be stopped. All the damage from Kansas is coming straight through Jace, and Saints cannot keep up.
Yeah, Jace is doing so much damage at this point, and now with this Baron buff, they still got a minute left on it. It's going to be really difficult to defend this. Great plays by Rockboom, though. Look at the damage coming through. This might just be enough to cut the taste, but nonetheless, there's still a cannon minion there. Can they capitalize?
Ash ultimate to come through. They find that inhibitor, and no one really there to be able to capitalize on the ultimate. Alonso and Rockboom, they allow University of Kansas to get away with an inhibitor, but luckily nothing more. Dragon not up for another 2 minutes, so nothing really more for University of Kansas to do other than take these Baron backs while they last, push out those lanes, and just find the resets. St. Clair, now you really got to have a game plan coming in to the rest of this, because if you keep letting players try to fight solo, I mean, Ricky and Bakery Boy themselves, Bakery Boy tries to make that desperate shuffle play, only finds Porcelain, and then is just stuck in the jungle 1v1 with this Akshan.
Oh my goodness.
The items just keep getting bigger, keep getting bigger. 4-item Akshan now.
Infinity
so much damage to come through from that carry there.
It's either IE or potentially a GA to come through. You know, it's so difficult to continue this game state for the side of St. Clair. Oh my goodness, look at this fight. This is terrible from the side of Saints. They're caught out.
They're caught out, but Ricky is able to find a lot of knockups to come through. Bakery Boy, damage is good, but it's not enough to make something happen.
Fiora.
Ultimate to come through. Fiora is going to fall from Rockboom. Rockboom putting in a lot of damage onto Porcelain here. There's Azir to find the kill onto Snow Ovo. It's Jace gonna find that res onto the Varus. Jace still alive in this fight, but it's a triple kill from Rockboom to turn it in the Saints' favor, and no more reses to come through from the Akshan. He only finds the one, and it's Rockboom to come through in the end. That Caitlyn, 270 CS, 3.5 items to come through, and the damage finally gonna miss or gonna hit the mark from that Caitlyn. There's the insta-cleanse to come through after that Ashe. Oh my goodness, Snovo, you cannot run away from this, but wow, look at that damage. That's the lethality Varus to come through and actually gonna save their life, as Rockboom has no more health to be able to chase this player down.
Yeah, they're just going to be able to pick up this dragon at the end of it. Rockboom needs to be incredibly careful. Most likely going to auto-attack over that wall, but overall, it looked so bad until it looked really good. Samuel caught out a little bit on the side there, and Porcelain jumps into the teeth of the Saints' defense there. We'll be able to pick up this dragon. Don't think there's anything more to come.
Yeah, another arrow to come through from Erase, and it's actually going to stall Snow Ovo. No more steals from Varus's this week. Oh, that's a big miss from Porcelain, but yeah, the support most likely just going to have to give up their life for the team here.
Samuel.
Fiora ultimate to come through onto Rockboom this time, and it's actually just going to be burnt pretty early. Samuel taking a lot of damage, but no more damage from the Saints to come through. Rockboom can't really follow that one up too much. There's the near side to come through. Will the Ignite finish it? Yes, it will, so it's 1-for-1 in the end, but that darkness from the Nocturne is so good at saving the team. The near sight stopping the auto attacks for just enough time for Rockboom to be able to put the damage down onto Jason.
It's so annoying. It comes up every 30 seconds. We saw him all 3 times in the last minute and a half or so, but nonetheless, this game back and forth. All of this,
it's almost back up.
All of this, Kansas team is riding on Jays every single time. The Sukshan's just able to resurrect someone, be such a pain to deal with, such a nuisance every single time, and it's just so difficult for the Saints to fight up against it. Granted, looking at the items once again, 4.5 items now on the Scion. Not really going to be able to go toe-to-toe with this Fiora, but still, if the Fiora is in a team fight, if the Fiora is not in the same lane as the Scion, needs to respect what Ricky's going to be able to do there, because you see 365 CS, farming 10 CS a minute, doing exactly as the boss would do with less deaths than expected at that point as well. But overall, this Caitlyn is going to be so important. 4 completed items, 80% crit, as these crits start to rack up even more as we get towards the Guardian Angel coming through as that last item. It's going to be so difficult for the side of Kansas not only to kill them once, but kill them twice, and then hopefully get a Resurrect off in the meantime.
Yeah, and it's all coming down to Jace in these fights. I mean, you see it. Porcelain, sometimes they can find that engage to be able to have the rest of the team to kind of follow up, but in the end, all the damage is coming from the Akshan. The Varus has their moments. They have their chunks onto Rockboom from afar, being able to meet that range on the Caitlyn just a little bit, but as long as Rockboom doesn't get jumped on by Jace, I mean, they're able to live out that fight, and then the Caitlyn damage in the end. I mean, past 30 minutes, that Caitlyn damage is just too much.
It ramps up so much over the course of these fights, and I think Erase has done a really good job of just stalling out these fights consistently, slowing down the engage. And if they die, they die. It's an Ashe. At the end of the day, you're used for your ultimate, you're used for all the slows. If you die, you die. It's not going to be too bad at that, but nonetheless, there's so much coming through from the side of the Saints. They're really trying to push any advantage that they can. It's really just about neutering Jays as much as possible. You need to take power out of this Akshan because they can 1v9 this game given the right circumstances, and thus far, they're doing everything that they can to drag the Jayhawks across the line.
Yeah, and we do have a pause coming through here from the team, so yeah, technical issues, usual.
PC,
Yeah.
Literally.
Sometimes your PC catches on fire. It happens, right? Yeah, we are going to throw it to just a quick little break, but we will be right back in here with this action because another Dragon's coming up in a few minutes, Adam. This is going to be a big fight coming up in this game, and you guys don't want to miss it. Sorry about that, everybody, but PCs are, you know, they're not the most reliable things in the world, but now we are straight back into this game, and already these teams gearing up for a team fight. Ricky going to be trading abilities over with Porcelain there, but Porcelain's engage is down for a second or two there. There's the Ash Arrow to come through, but the tenacity on that Zac not going to be stunned for too long. Fiora gonna fall off of just that chain of abilities from the Saints, and now the Baron can come through, but Jace and Snovo, there's going to be so much damage to come through onto Jace here. Rock Boom setting up even more traps in that bush there.
Look at Ricky.
Just absolutely setting up the wall of traps there. Ricky coming in from the back. There's the Ash Arrow to come through. There's another pick to come through. This comp working at max efficiency right now.
Yeah, looking for the Metal Gear Solid flank there from Ricky. Now just going to try and hold everyone back. No potential Varus steal at the very least. There's still the Zac, but I don't think they're going to get in range in time. That's Baron going to side of Saints. Now it's just about clearing out the game. The darkness falls once again. Akshan.
It's going to come through. Akshan. So much damage to come backwards, but Alonso going to be able to live that one out. Death Dance. The item is too good. There's another Ash Arrow to come through, and 4 players from Kansas have fallen. Nocturne are almost up again. We love these champions with the low cooldown ultimates. They make these fights so exciting for us on the viewing side here. Here's the inhib to fall, and Saints, they've had their rough moments this game, but Rock Boom's damage has outscaled. There's the engage to come through, but the darkness is already back up. It's gonna fall. Snovo is gonna fall. Alonso forced to go golden, but nobody from the Saints even close to dying just yet. Alonso getting in a sticky situation, but Porcelain, you're playing tank. Zac, that's not enough damage. Saints are gonna close this one out at the 39-minute mark.
The PC was the issue.
Yeah,
that's
truthfully.
Yeah, literally, right after you get out of the pause, 5-6 kills in a row, and they are able to end that game. My goodness, they end up just letting their comp come into their own. I think, honestly, it was a big time performance coming through from Rock Boom to be able to get back after a really rough early game, and I think especially Ricky just able to be that constant pest in the side lane, always being a nuisance to the Fiora, really was able to take that one down, and overall just a really strong performance.
Yeah, and I mean, there were some rough team fights from the Saints. There was a lot. I'm thinking of 2 specifically, just where players were not positioned where they needed to be, especially just up against that Akshan. It was tough. It was tough to try and, worry about the rest of the team, but also not get flanked by this stealth Akshan and just lose your life in half a second.
Yeah, it was really difficult, and Jays, I think, had a really strong game. I think there is a lot of pressure to ban that Akshan now. I think it has to be taken off of the table because they showed how confident they were. Like, look at the damage charts. You see Rock Boom really coming into their own, but Jays still the most damage in that game, and for good reason. We saw what they were able to do. We saw what the Fiora was able to do in those isolated situations, but unfortunately, Samuel grouping up a little bit too much. It's something that you don't want to really have the issue of grouping up too much as a Fiora, but I think in that isolated 1v1, being a pest on that sideline was where she needed to stay, and unfortunately, she got punished.
Yeah, and that's going to come through. Look at the damage to come through from Jace, though. Even Rock Boom couldn't catch up in the end. Look at the graphs. That Akshan was that rock that Kansas was sticking to, but in the end, the Ash Arrow and that Nocturne ultimate, the combo of that is just so threatening in a fight. And then you add in the fact that the second that Ash Arrow hits, Ricky can just sit there, charge up his knock-up and just wait there and lay on the CC. And then picking one person becomes a breeze. And we saw it come through. The first pick comes through. The Baron comes through. Another one comes through. And it just keeps going.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, Kansas really need to sort of stick to their guns in a lot of ways. I think they had a really strong first 20 minutes of the game, but as we mentioned in game there, it's really about what happens next. It's what happens in the next 15, 20 minutes of that game that really makes or break your team. At the end of the day, Saints just showed their experience by holding and sticking to their own guns, sticking to all of these ultimates getting thrown at them to be that sort of decider for them, and that was what won them the game, just holding onto the Ashe ultimate, using it on the right target, burning all of these summoners and all of these cooldowns, and then being able to capitalize and win the game off of that.
Yeah, and in the end, it's that experience that shows true. I mean, you said yourself, Kansas University, new roster, and you can tell a lot of, solo queue type personalities, let's say, I saw from that gameplay. Of course, Akshan to come through. That's just a solo queue type champ in general, and I mean, they found success with it. But I think we can all agree, coming into that draft next, we may see Akshan in that ban pool for the Saints. They might rethink those bans just a little bit coming into this next game. But any final thoughts before we send it off to a break here, Adam?
Honestly, I'm curious to see what Kansas choose if they opt to go on that blue side. I think that will really cause certain bans to come through on the opposite side there. But realistically, I'm just curious to see if they can bounce back from that game because they were really close. It was a very close game overall. The gold lead may not suggest that. The end result may not suggest that, but it was a very close game, and I think Kansas definitely has the tools to potentially take a game off of the Saints.
100% they have the tools. I mean, that first 20 minutes, you said it yourself, they played very well. That first 20 minutes was almost dead even. If it wasn't for Ricky and Rockboom finding so many plates, I don't think the gold lead would have ever been in Saints' favor until late in that game. But in the end, I think it was that ultimate lead, really. It was those ultimates coming back up, those short cooldowns that end up winning out those team fights. That is going to be it for game one. We are going to be taking a quick little break here, and we will meet you back in draft for game two. That he's just going to be chunky in his own right. There's the ultimate from the Varus burned. That's going to be Jace coming through, but Nocturne here for the counter gank. There's the Ashe ultimate. There's first blood to come through onto the Varus. Nocturne going to have to flash that out. Alonso should be able to find a second one there. Double kill for Alonso. There's the slow coming through from Erase. Should be able to save Alonso as well. Porcelain can't find his way there, and that is going to be a 2-for-0.
And now some plates are going down. Alonso, though, might be in trouble. Are they going to be able to hold it?
Alonso might have put himself in a tough situation here, but the TP to come through. Bakery Boy, there's the ultimate to come through. And the Ashe, the shuffle! So big onto three of them. Gonna find that kill onto Jace. Can this zap? Wow, so much damage to come through from another Ricky Q. Ricky LaFleur gonna fall. Alonso being targeted out. It's a race to fall immediately, but all of these Kansas members are so low. Rockboom still full. Can he auto them out? Is this gonna be a 3-for-0, or can Rockboom find something? There's the first one to come through. You've got so much range on this Caitlyn, but now that Varus Q is threatening when there is fall. Alonso being targeted out. It's a race to fall immediately, but all of these Kansas members are so low. Rockboom still full. Can he auto them out? Is this gonna be a 3-for-0, or can Rockboom find something? There's the first one to come through. You've got so much range on this Caitlyn, but now that Varus Q is threatening when there is an Eclipse on the board. Jace to come through. This could be... Wow, the double to come
thus far, and even still, look at where Jace is set up.
Yeah, Porcelain is getting ready for this leap onto the Dragon. Blue team gonna find the smite there to come through. Alonso, he's too quick on that F key. Notice how I said F key because it's not F for flash. There's the ultimate to come back in. There's the pick.
Once they get level 16, because those vitals mean so much more. Look at the fight.
There's the shovel to come through, saving Rockboom. In the end, Alonso, the darkness, gonna shut down this team fight about as fast as they can. But the trade back from Jace is good. A race, no arrow up to be able to help out. And a lot of knockups to come through. Bakery Boy, damage is good, but it's not enough to make something happen. Ultimate to come through. Fiora is going to fall from Rockboom. Rockboom putting in a lot of damage onto Porcelain here. There's Azir to find the kill onto Snow Ovo. It's Jace gonna find that res onto the Varus. Jace still alive in this fight, but it's a triple kill from Rockboom to turn it in the Saints' favor, and no more reses to go. There's gonna be so much damage to come through onto Jace here. Rockboom setting up even more traps in that bush there. Just absolutely setting up the wall of traps there. Ricky coming in from the back. There's the Ash Arrow to come through. There's another pick to come through. This is this comp working out.
Going to side of Saints. Now it's just about clearing out the game. This darkness falls once again. Akshan.
It's going to come through. Akshan. So much damage to come backwards, but Alonso going to be able to live that one out. Death Dance. The item is too good. There's another Ash Arrow to come. So exciting for us on the viewing side here. Here's the inhib to fall, and Saints, they've had their rough moments this game, but Rockboom's damage has outscaled. There's the engage to come through, but the darkness is already back up. It's gonna fall. Snow Ovo is gonna fall. Alonso forced to go golden, but nobody from the Saints even close to dying just yet. Alonso getting in a sticky situation, but Porsche that he's just gonna be chunky in his own right. There's the ultimate from the Welcome back, everybody, to Game 2 Draft. No side switches this time. We are going to be running it back. Saints on that blue side, University of Kansas on that red side. And as our first bans start coming through here, Adam, what needs to change in some of these drafts coming into Game 2? Priority number one, I think, for the Saints, because if it wasn't for that Akshawn, the Saints, I think, would have had such an easy time just letting that gold lead just roll up to high numbers and just keep going. But that Akshawn, so good at shutting down those carries.
Yeah, and I think especially with how well Kansas's early game went, I think that the Saints really need to keep that in mind. Of course, Aatrox going to be taken off of the table there. Absolutely no surprise that champion is still giga broken.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, we saw like almost 100% pick ban in Worlds for so long in the tournament, and then that Kindred ban going to come back through. Another target jungle ban towards that Kindred player. Heimerdinger ban. Kansas not going to let that bot lane of the Saints have any fun, even though, you know, it's a pretty strong pick as well. I still think of it as a fun pick in my opinion.
Indeed, a wise choice, as one would say. But nonetheless, yes, the Heimerdinger gives you so much more lane priority in the same way that the Karma does. Yeah. So, I mean, no surprise to see those banned away. But interestingly enough, we see the Nocturne banned as opposed to the Caitlyn here. And I think this basically just opens the door for Rockwoman to say, I'm running it back on the Caitlyn. I'm going to pick that one up again because it is such a strong and polarizing AD carry. You need to have an answer to it. The Varus did okay into it, but we saw what happened in the later stages. Caitlyn was just able to zone control so well with those traps around objectives and able to output so much more damage. I think there's a world where this Varus does need to switch up the build and go for the on-hit build because it does give you more DPS if you're able to stay safer. It's just if they can draft a frontline available for that. That is not a frontline available for it.
Yeah, the Ashe gonna be paired back up with that Varus on the opposite side. Now Ashe gonna help keep up with that poke in that bot lane, but Sylas is gonna be locked in from the Saints, not banned out this time by University of Kansas in these initial 3, and the Lux pick to round it out. Caitlyn Lux to counter up that Varus Ashe.
And I think the Sylas pickup here is really smart because you have some really strong ultimates to steal away here. You have the agency to steal away a Varus ult and Ashe ultimate to just start your engage. It's a free engage tool for you. You basically get to take the strong parts about those two champions and just have them for yourself at that. The Orianna pick here is interesting because it does control the lane quite well, but thus far you have no one to bring your ball into that backline. How are you going to get on top of this Caitlyn Lux with that Orianna Shockwave if you have a Varus Ashe? There's no real way to get in there. It has to be Orianna putting it back there. So I think they're going to have to try and draft some sort of dive champion to to get it into that backline as well. But nonetheless, already, once again, very long-range comps coming out from both of these teams.
Yeah, and now the Saints can kind of tailor these last 2 bans. You know, okay, they know they need some kind of dive jungler. There's the Zac taken out. Would have been a perfect choice for that Orianna ball. But that Zac not going to be ran back from last game. And then as these final ban comes through, they can choose, do we want to take out, you know, a top laner with great engage, like something like a Malphite, or do we want to just keep target banning that jungle? I mean, we saw them expend just about all 5 bans on the jungle last game. They could very well likely just do that again, as it is one of those roles left, and that's exactly what's going to happen. Hecarim, another great champ to be able to throw that Orianna ball onto, now taken off the menu here for University of Kansas, so it's going to be Viego to come through in the jungle.
Yeah, where is she at that point? But nonetheless, it is still another dive champion that you're able to sort of pilot for yourself. Steal away the ultimate, steal away the entire champion. You get your pick of the litter effectively with this Viego locked in. I think this champion has gotten a lot of success recently as well. I think the champion is incredibly broken. Honestly, just being able to take over an enemy champion and heal that and be able to find that engage for yourself is very strong. But the Maokai comes through, and Maokai, one of the main stats that I like to throw out there, had like a 30% win rate at Worlds, but a 60% win rate when it was either on a team with the Sylas or the Sylas was banned because of how strong that ultimate is. So now you get both of them together, sort of like, enemies become, become your friends. They end up teaming up at the end of the anime or whatever. But then the Jack's here as well. Imagine if you had a real weapon, because then this draft would be over. But nonetheless, still going to be good as that blind pick there for the side of Saints. Very curious to see what the answer is into that, because you still need some way to get into that back line. It's going to be the Gnar picked up.
Yeah, Gnar gets picked up. He's got the leap. He's got the ability to get into that back line and start causing havoc. That ultimate is going to apply so much pressure in these team fights. But looking at this Saints comp, I'm hoping you agree with me here. That is a lot of lockdown potential. You've got the Caitlyn traps. You've got everything in Lux's kit, essentially. Well, 2 abilities, really, but
Silas.
So much lockdown to come through. Silas, the chains count as that as well. And then, of course, Maokai, everything in that kit is a slow, a knock-up, a root, everything. He's going to be able to find that CC, all while having this Jax just going to go crazy in the side lane until we all know that one team fight is going to come through. Ricky's going to show up to the team fight and just start ripping through the ranks of University of Kansas.
Yeah, and I think realistically here, this, especially on the top side of the map, it's going to be really difficult for the Saints to really get any sort of early advantages. Maokai's going to clear a lot slower than the Viego. We're going to see this Gnar be able to bully out this Jax a little bit. The Orianna going to be able to shove in to the likes of this Silas as well. A lot of their range just comes from the bot lane. It's going to be this Caitlyn Lux really trying to put the hurt down onto the Varus Ashe there. There's so much poke available for them there, but nonetheless, very curious to see if Kansas are able to capitalize on that early game power that their top side of the map has, because of course with the Gnar, once you go Mega, once you're able to drop that Orianna ult, that is such a strong team fight start. You can use the Varus ultimate as follow-up at that point. You can use the Ashe's secondary engage. You can just have that Gnar hopping in, scooping everyone back into those walls, getting a huge shockwave onto anyone to sort of start your fight. So I'm very curious to see if that is how they're going to play it out. Once again, on the flip side, a lot of good ultimates to be able to steal for the Silas to even turn that engage against them, but we'll have to see how it goes once we get onto the Rift.
Yeah, they've got so much to choose from. You've got that Ashe ult, you've got the Varus ult, Gnar ult is a great one to pick up as well. Orianna ult, even without the ball, it's a great ultimate to use, and we are now going to be loading on to the Rift here. These players going to start with their 5-point start classic.
And one thing to keep in mind as well is the fact that Silas is going to be able to steal away the Gnar ult. Gnar ult has, get this, an 150% AP ratio. So you steal that away, and all of a sudden your scoop on the Gnar is doing, 200, 300 damage if you hit the wall. And the Silas scoop is going to be doing like 600, 700 damage. Look at the poke coming down. Moonglade. Unlucky.
That's what happens when you meet Lux, Caitlyn in the bot lane, level 1. Ricky Lafleur gonna get these stacks already coming through. Even a couple grass procs in there, so that's gonna give so much to the lane. Actually, so many of these players are gonna be late to the minions at this point. I mean,
a little bit, yeah.
Should be able to make it. Should be able to make it here, but.
I think the main thing, Gnar's going to be the slowest one there, but I think they are leashing, so I don't think they mind too much. Samuel's going to be able to get back there in time, but basically any trades with mini Gnar in those early stages, specifically level 1, you say nah, Hanga to any of those, as the Jax will just win out on those in the long run. Of course, getting a grass proc for yourself, this is a lane where you can take that grass to sort of survive the lane a little bit better. Granted, mini Gnar's hyper procs are still going to stack up over time. Got to be careful about that health stacking at all times as well.
Yeah, fleet footwork as well, going to be able to kind of meet that grasp sustain in lane, and with the range going to help out a lot more as well. But Erase already throwing those auto attacks down. There's the E to start with the poke. I mean, this is how this bot lane is going to look the whole time.
This is more textbook to a Caitlyn Lux lane. You're able to consistently find that shove over and over and over again every single time to be able to find any angle in that regard. But nonetheless, Varus Ashe doesn't have as much priority in that sense. So I think that you're able to shove in that wave a little bit better. You're able to have a little bit more control over the wave. And I think in turn, you are punishing them, as you see here, where the Varus and the Ashe are just forced all the way back here. They're forced to respect this at all times.
Yeah, and now mid lane, we're already seeing it's going to stay pretty slow for a lot of the time until Bakery Boy is able to dash in, find a couple auto trades like that. But, I mean, the range coming through from the Orianna, it's just kind of even out these trades. There's the root coming through from Erase. That's a lot of damage onto Moonglade there. They're leveled down for a sec as well, so damage just going to tack on a little bit more, and Rock Boom and Erase should be able to have the health lead for like 99% of this lane.
Yeah, that's the whole point about Caitlyn Lux, is that you have all-in potential, you have poke potential. This lane works so well in tandem. You have to find ways to be able to poke back evenly in some ways, or even poke back more aggressively. But there, Erase taking a couple of tower shots, that's sort of the downfall. If you get a little bit too aggressive, if you move up a little bit too far, especially if you took that Scorch. Sometimes you walk back up, the Scorch proc hits, and you're like, oh, I gotta step back. Or the Comet hits, up, I gotta step back. I can't be in that situation. But nonetheless, Rockboom's positioning doing really good here to keep some of this CS out of the Varus' pocket as well. We saw Snovo do a really good job in the first game to sort of keep even in CS, get a CS lead even at that, but now Rockboom definitely feeling in their wheelhouse here in this lane. This is a lane that, honestly, anytime you see a Caitlyn in solo queue, you say, I'm picking Lux, I'm picking Karma, I'm picking Morgana, one of the three, and we're going to stomp the crap out of this lane.
Yeah, and really, that's going to come through in full swing here. I mean, you talked about getting that CS lead early. No Karma to back up this Varus. I mean, Varus has no access to the minions now. The Varus themselves can get poked out, and Moonglade, yes, they're able to tank a little bit of that, but Porcelain coming through on this Viego, a clutch route from Erase to be able to instantly shut down that gank. No summoner spells needed to be burned. Just going to have some abilities being traded in that top lane.
And you can see on that bot side of the map, Alonso actually going to face check right into it. Bakery Boy's in trouble, though.
Yeah, lots of autos coming through down in that mid lane. Bakery Boy going to make it out with just a sliver of health. No abilities left from that Orianna. Samuel getting very low, but Mega Gnar is going to come through in just a second here. Ricky going to have to force that back off. Alonso can't get much done in this bot lane. They know that Viego's around. They came there for the pressure to try and help with that counter gank just a little bit, but now they can't really do much. Alonso just kind of has to opt back to the farm.
Yeah, just has to get back into the driver's seat in that regard, but nonetheless, you can see actually a farm lead coming through from... I can't read, never mind. Farm lead coming through for Jace on this Orianna in the mid lane there. Bakery Boy still just sort of having to survive this lane as much as possible. You can see Orianna still has a potion, still has a cookie to burn there, whereas Bakery Boy forced to use both of those summoners already. So nonetheless, Bakery Boy going to have a little bit less impact in this early stage. With Alonso's bot side here, can they make the play work?
There's the point and click route to come through. A great combo of abilities there, and that's going to be first blood going over to Alonso. Not found by the Caitlyn, but still great to see nonetheless. Alonso comes through, and that is that Maokai being put into work. Can't cancel it at the last second there,
might
but
be for the better.
Either way, this is gonna be, yeah, might be for the better. I mean, they get this full push off, possibly even a plate to come through here, but this Ashe and Snow Owo are already back on the way to lane. It's just gonna be the bot lane having to reset from the side of the Sins.
And this is more of what we expect out of a Caitlyn Varus lane. 20 CS up for the Caitlyn. Rockboom is going to be able to reset and have a really nice buy for themselves. It's the Newton Quiver, it's the boots coming through. So they're going to really be able to continue pushing forward this advantage. Whereas on the flip side, it's a tier and extra longsword. The damage output just not going to be there for Snow Owo there. Moonglade, you know, coming back with a Fairy Charm and Boots, still not in the best of situations, but as you can see, it's really just Saints doing a great job playing around this bot side, and I want to especially commend Alonso just setting up that play so easily. Race just throws out the bind, Alonso knocking them into it, the trap comes down. That is the power of Caitlyn Lux alongside another crowd control jungler, and, you know, Snovo has the cleanse. Honestly, I would even advocate for Moonglade to have taken the cleanse this game because of how much crowd control there is and how important it is for you to play for your life in a lot of these situations.
Yeah, and really, and that cleanse is something, like, unlike a heal, right, which kind of trails off towards those later stages of the game, the cleanse is always going to be valuable. I mean,
it's more value.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to keep getting more valuable because every bit of CC, like, you know, as the game goes on, as the damage numbers get higher, every bit of CC, it's that much more potent, right? Snow Owo already back to taking all of this abuse in the bot lane. So much damage to come through, and you know, we're seeing a little bit more of how this Caitlyn lane should be. Just pushed up, you know, this Ashe Varus kind of sitting back behind their tower for most of this lane here. Porcelain gonna come in for a bit of a lane gank, but just gonna have to opt to walk through. There's the ultimate to be burned by Jays, but tower shot taken a little bit there. Bakery Boy has that Orianna ult in the back pocket. That's really going to have to make them think twice about this engage. The ultimate to be burned by the Gnar as well. Ricky Lafleur, half health here. Cole longsword only. This could be a fight to win, however. Only a Sheen on the side of Samuel, and as the damage comes through, it's going to be this wave stacking up for Ricky. Could even possibly go for a risky dive here, but just going to opt to push that one out as all the action heads towards the bot lane. Porcelain going to solo that dragon to come through, but the ultimate from Alonso just going to pick off Moonglade once again. Target locked, target acquired, and target executed there.
Well played, and I think the main thing is just because of the mid advantage that they've been able to garner for themselves. This Orianna, which, as we mentioned, going to be a little bit more difficult to pilot later. Still good in the laning phase. Alonso going to be able to hop over that wall without too much trouble. But this Caitlyn Lux lane, it's good to see the Saints are playing for the lane. You can see about a 30 CS advantage, 25 CS advantage on this bottom side of the map as well. So Caitlyn continuing to get as much farm as possible. Really going to be pushing for these plates as well. And Erase now with that prismatic laser online, the final spark, just going to be able to drop that down onto anyone and sort of be able to finish off some of these kills, even set up for the ace in the hole as well. This Lux lane can be so difficult to deal with. I'm curious about the build, though, because there's the solo queue build where you build Ludens and you go, full AP and you ruin the life of not only the enemy team, but also your ADC because you steal all their farm. I'm curious to see if we see that or something like the Mikhail's that we've seen. Mikhail's Everfrost as an angle that's been popularized by World just because of the utility that you get. That's an amplifying tome, a little bit ambiguous for now, but I'm feeling we're going to get something a little bit more AP focused.
Yeah, and a lot of that probably comes from the fact that all of your AP right now is pretty well melee from the side of Bakery Boy. So having that final spark in the back pocket and the fact that you go for a Ludens, it chunks so much. And coming through 3-4 squishies in here. Gnar, not exactly the tankiest character in the world. I mean, definitely meatier than a lot of these other characters in the game here, but not a tank in their own right.
Yeah, and it really comes down to whether the Gnar goes for, or whether the Gnar is mini or mega at that point. Mega Gnar going to be able to survive a final spark pretty well. Mini Gnar will get chunked, and I mean, that's exactly what's happening on this top side of the map. Mini Gnar struggling with the likes of this Jax just because of the fact that Ricky is so aggressive with it. Alonso going to pick up that Rift Herald. Nonetheless, you can see just Rockboom on this bottom side of the map, perfectly happy with it. I want to sort of point out that the Varus did opt for, on their first back at least, a tier plus a longsword. Now they pick up the Vamp Scepter. I would have probably liked to see that reversed, where they pick up the Vamp Scepter first, so they could survive this lane a little bit better. You can see still so much damage coming through from Rockboom, and now Snovo can't walk up because now they've given up so much. They're so far behind in terms of the farm department. Their items are so far behind. Bakery Boy dodging away from the Enchanted Crystal Arrow that now Snovo has to play so far back, burn so much mana to even try and get any CS, even if it's a caster minion.
Yeah, and you can tell, I mean, at this point, Moonglade has just taken their focus to the rest of the map because that lane is lost. There's not much Snovo can do other than sit under tower, wait for the farm to come to him, and just try not to die under tower, try not to lose any of this farm. You just perfectly farm those minions as you can, because you know in this 2v2, you're probably still gonna lose. Not unless this Viego is coming down like they are right now, but it looks like Rockboom and Erase might not have any idea, actually. The push is going to come through, but they should have the time to make something happen. The root not going to transfer onto Rockboom, but Erase finding themselves unable to move for so long. The gank is good. Snovo, 1 kill, slightly back in this game. Bakery Boy, the stolen ultimate to come through. The hijack is good, but now you're out of damage there. There's the flash on the orb, and that is going to be the flash burn, the ultimate burn, but no kills to be found in that mid lane scuffle there.
Yeah, Bakery Boy sort of not respecting how much damage Jace is doing at this point, and now forced to back off even further. The arrow
going to be dodged there, but Porcelain not going to opt to just run it down there. Just going to be taking these plates mid. Start to take this priority on the map because they know they can kind of just bully Bakery Boy in this lane. The Orianna has been the pick that's able to keep up with him. And that's the one lane that they're not really outright winning, right? Top lane, a bit of a CS lead for Ricky, but Ricky has been able to come into these fights and hold their own against this Gnar, even while down an item or two, even while farming up this coal. And then once that coal pops, I mean, the gold lead is just going to be all in Ricky's favor. And this Jax is just going to get more and more potent as the time goes on. You can see 4,400 on that Jax right now. 45 5. Look at that gold lead in the bot lane, Adam.
That's exactly what we want to see. We want to see that bot lane sort of able to get that agency, even with the kill in the back pocket of the Varus, you know, is nothing compared to what this Caitlyn's able to put up for herself. Rockboom doing a great job of sort of holding the line, continuing to push forward as much as possible in that lane and pushing their advantage. I want to see if they can start to rotate this Caitlyn around the map, find as many plates as possible. Granted, with a minute left, very likely not going to be able to get too much of that. And even on the bottom side, only 1 plate achieved for themselves. But Alonso is lurking, and Snovo needs to be careful. That's a Rift Herald place down. I want to see Rockboom get in range for that, because that is who you want the gold on. You don't want to get 320 gold on this Maokai. Come on, Rockboom. Get up there. Get up there, buddy.
Yeah, the push to come through, and Rockboom gonna find 107 gold from that to his name, as well as the first turret to come through here in the mid lane. There was an engage onto Bakery Boy. Porcelain, can you find this kill? Yes, you can. That is gonna come through. The red buff damage is just good enough. That's the kill to come through onto Bakery Boy. So the lead, you know, being funneled to where it can be found from Kansas, but this bot lane is just going to run rampant from the side of the Saints, and you, at some point, you have to turn your attention to this Caitlyn. You have to try and stop her from getting this lead that she's already built up, and stop her from getting it even bigger. Ricky LaFleur, those Sheen procs are big, but Samuel doing just as much damage right back. The auto attack's going to be dodged from Ricky LaFleur, and that's the power of Jax trading.
And granted, Jax doesn't have a whole lot of mana at this point. Needs to be careful of the fact that Porcelain is on this top side of the map. Ash Arrow!
The arrow to come through, but the block could be good for just a little bit. The ward hop out of there. Porcelain has the movement speed to possibly catch up here. No teammates from Ricky to follow up, and Ricky just going to have to try and stall as much time as possible. At least you're allowing that team to find the dragon on the bot side, but Ricky gonna fall to that gank. This Viego 2-0 now, Bork in hand, just gonna be following Bakery Boy all the way over towards this blue buff. Not gonna find the kill onto Bakery Boy, but the blue buff is gonna go over to that Viego. Not gonna give it over to the mid laner, just gonna keep it on that Viego, allow this farm lead to increase over the Maokai right now, and denying those camps as well.
And the main thing is just that they've been able to split them out vertically at this point. They've been sort of able to recover at that. Rockboom going to be able to dodge away from the Enchanted Crystal. Here comes Alonso, though. This could be a really big fight.
Moonblade going to get rooted, but that ultimate going to miss just in the last second. Rockboom, Gale Force is good onto Snovo. Snovo's health bar getting dangerously low. There's the root to come through. Ace in the hole to finish. Alonso is going to fall to Porcelain. Porcelain now on that Maokai. Could find something onto Rockboom here to start up a fight again. He looks like he might be thinking about it, but it's just the poke going to be thrown out from that Maokai. Now back to Viego here.
Oh my goodness.
Engage onto Erase. Erase taking so much damage. Final Spark to come out before death. Now Porcelain is on this Lux. There's the flash from Rockboom to dodge that out. Rockboom playing this so well. Now 4-0 after that fight. Bakery Boy could come in onto this Jace here, but now Enchanted Crystal Arrow going to be dodged. Stolen the Gnar ult as well. That's great on Bakery Boy.
Oh, yeah, because of the AP scaling that we were talking about earlier, but even now, you can just see how much gold is getting funneled into this Caitlyn. 2 completed items now in favor of Rockboom. They're 50 CS up on this Varus as well. They're very happy with the state of this game at this point. It is Rockboom's world, and we're just all living in it. Bakery Boy gonna get the back canceled, and flash for flash to come out there as Alonso gets priority to start this Rift Herald, but it's the bot lane to come up, and this Viego has time to rotate. Saints bot lane, you gotta start moving up towards that. Ricky LaFleur, gonna be battling it out with Jace in the bottom lane, but not too much to come out in the end. Bakery Boy finds himself up in this top lane, holding down that side lane as the bot lanes now move towards mid, and it's been Alonso just to get this free Rift Herald. They're not going to opt to fight for it. Bakery Boy, they're afraid of that rotation. He's just so potent right now. 2 items already. A rapid fire Gale Force in tow. That Gale Force going to be doing so much execution damage. The rapid fire just adding on to that range advantage that Caitlyn has. Ricky LaFleur ward hop out of there, and he finds himself safety under the tower. Yeah, you can just see how much damage this Caitlyn's doing and how much control is being garnered around the map by Rockboom. They're just able to continuously walk up, show out at this point, and Snovo has to just respect all these rotations. Look how many members on this bottom side of the map, though. There's 3 members expended. It's the Viego tasked with split pushing at this point. It's an interesting call from them. Dragon's not spawning for another 90 seconds, so maybe they're not too worried about that. But all these map rotations not really working out in favor of Kansas because there's the Rift Herald popped mid. I don't think they have a way of killing this either. It's going to get a secondary crash. It's just more gold going into Rockboom's favor.
Yeah, I mean, we can just take a look at that gold for once.
Oh my goodness.
Look at that lead. 3.2k to come in from Rockboom. Bakery Boy only finding themselves about 1,200 behind. Meanwhile, that jungle as well gonna have a lead from the side of Kansas, but Ricky up about 1.7 as well. So the gold lead mainly coming through from the top, from the ADC here. And it's that mid-jungle duo from Kansas kind of holding them in this game right now, really. It's been a lot of those 2-man plays from Jace and Porcelain, shutting down Bakery Boy, finding that mid-turret. It's been a lot of their game plan thus far. And as soon as the Saints have Rockboom show up to a fight, unless one of these Orianna ults pops onto Rockboom, I don't think there's much that can happen, as Rockboom is just going to be doing too much damage. Ricky LaFleur not even needing to split push right now, just going to team up with the team. There's the final spark to come out. Bakery Boy to find the first kill onto Porcelain. Ricky LaFleur just knocking down Snovo in the backline there. Rockboom to fall. There's the Orianna ult. That's what they needed. 1-for-1 trade from you of Kansas here. Saints have to back away. This dragon is spawning. It's an Infernal. It's a big one. This is going to add on to the team's damage by a lot in the end, especially if the damage is just going to be good enough to start one-shotting Rockboom like that. And Infernal is going to help out University of Kansas a lot. But now it's down to a 4v4. Erase finds the first engage there. Final spark is up in just a second, but Ricky dangerously low. Bakery Boy, it's actually a race to find that kill. Bakery Boy going to fall in the end. Alonzo and Erase, you don't have the damage to fight this out. Final spark, he knocks him out of it. Jace not going to fall. Double root from Erase, but Erase falls in the end. That's going to be a 1-for-3.
Oh, man. It went all so wrong there for the side of the Saints. They had the angles, they had everything set up properly, but the knockout of the final spark there just affords enough damage on Isamuel to be able to turn that kill back around onto a race. It's a little bit unfortunate there. We see a little bit of a misstep, but nonetheless, St. Clair still firmly in the driver's seat in terms of the gold, just in terms of the towers they've taken as well. And now Ricky, with that Frozen Heart, with that Null Magic in the inventory, very difficult to take down on the sideline. Going to be doing really well into the Gnar specifically. Even the Orianna not going to have the greatest of times against the Jax.
Listen, I mean, miscommunication happens. That definitely could have been a much more even fight. But, I mean, we saw the crazy chemistry from the two players in the bot lane gank that started off the game, started off this lead. In the end of that team fight, the chemistry just not there. The timing just a little too misaligned. And in the end, it's going to be to St. Clair's downfall as University of Kansas, they grab the Dragon lead and they grab the kill lead.
And interesting to look at the Lux building the Ludens. And we talked about this from the get-go, and it's a little bit of a different situation now because we look at Bakery Boy being able to sort of get back into this game. You appreciate the long-range damage coming through from the Lux, but realistically, you have to think about the crowd control and the fact that Rockboom, yes, you have the cleanse, but there's so much that you do need to cleanse out as well. You know, the Verisalt, the Ash ult, you need to be mindful of that. You know, the Gnar ultimate if you're getting stunned as well. There are a lot of things that you still need to worry about on the side of this Caitlyn. So considering the Mikhails might be an option as well, even to keep Bakery Boy safe or some of the frontliners safe, might have been an option, and going for that Everfrost afterwards to just continue that crowd control. Bakery Boy, nice dodge.
Yeah, nice sidestep onto that one. The route to come through on Jace, but the damage on Erase tacking on. There's the Scuttle Fruit to be able to bring him just enough to stay alive. Rockboom gonna turn the fight on its head, kill onto Porcelain. Ricky LaFleur in the bot lane, just being an absolute menace on this Jax. Snovo kind of stuck away from the rest of his team here, could be spotted out. The rest of Kansas pretty well split up in this red side jungle. There's not much that they can do as they let St. Clair back here. They take that pick, and Saints once again make away with a lead.
They get a very strong pickup there. They're able to take down Porcelain. They're able to get a bot lane tier 2 tower as well. And now this Jax, as you mentioned, is going to be a pain in the side lane. Does not matter that Samuel's been able to pick up the slack a little bit here. Even at 2 items, they're not going to be quite strong enough to fight Ricky at this point, especially not in mini Gnar form. This Jax is just going to be going to Pound Town in that situation as well. Jay's sort of hiding here. Bakery Boy still has that Gnar ultimate. I think they're trying to wait that one out as long as possible. Ash ult
gonna come through, and this is the CC gonna start compounding. Bakery Boy super low, but it's still a Silas in the end. Not close enough to any terrain for that Gnar ultimate to really work out, and it's gonna be Jace with the pick in the side lane. The Silas, that Zhonya's not gonna do ya much against the Orianna.
Yeah, I mean, just picked it up as well. Going to hopefully try and buy themselves a little bit more time in that situation as well. But nonetheless, you're going to see how much value this Ashe ultimate is getting. Moongrade's been very good at landing them across the map.
Final Spark, last second, mistimed
long shot
on that back.
Yeah, long shot with the Caitlyn ultimate as well, but nonetheless. As you can see, though, the Orianna 4-0 and 4. Jays has done so well for the side of Kansas, continuously finding leads. This is 3 items on the Orianna. We talked about how strong it would be in lane, and that has transitioned now into a very strong mid-game spike here. 3 completed items. The Rabadon's going to be chunking anyone out, even if it's Alonso in that front line, who doesn't really have a whole lot of magic resistance right now. Granted, I do want to get a check on the Orianna here if we can hover her really quickly. Does she have the chains on her? She does. So that is good. That is the way that Maokai is going to survive the Orianna there, by putting those chains on, reducing that damage in that situation.
Yeah, and that Orianna damage is going to stack up. You see she's got the Leandries as well, so that damage over time in the fight. Not looking to burst anyone down, just looking to provide as much damage over the team fight as possible. But I mean, you're still going to be bursting when the only other person in the game at 3 items is Rock Boom, and you have a Rabadons as Orianna. You can still one-shot a lot of these players. You can still probably one-shot a race with just your own abilities. And I mean, you saw the fight against Bakery Boy in the top lane there. It's just, all it takes is one good bit of CC, and Orianna can just stack up those abilities. You've got that shockwave, you've got the dissonance there as well to do so much damage. And then, of course, you can't forget that Orianna auto attacks literally have AP scaling and level scaling.
Yeah, the Clockwork Wind-Up there just continuously providing more damage. So you've always got to be mindful of those Ori auto attacks. They're deceptively strong in the long run. I mean, there was a reason why Nashor's 2 use Rod of Ages was a build on Orianna for a while there. But look at this Dragon setup. So aggressive coming through from Kansas. Ricky has vision of this. He's going to come over the wall. Let's see what happens. Maokai ultimate.
Malphite ultimate to come through. The dragon is getting low, and Alonso is close to this dragon here. Should be able to find the smite. Little bit of a steal coming through. A race finding themselves low at the start of this fight. But Samuel also low in their own respect. Both of these teams just going to back off. That was found. Bakery Boy a little bit out of position from the rest of his team here, but just going to focus on pushing out this lane, try to get this mid lane push.
And the issue is, they need to line up behind Snowbow, which is really difficult because you're lining up behind your backliner. You don't want to have to line up behind the Varus to just cleanse it off immediately. But nonetheless, they're just going right back over to this next objective. Granted, this might be a little bit greedy. No Maokai ultimate. You don't have the Caitlyn to just be able to fire onto the enemies. They're actually just going to drop the damage. Oh my goodness.
There's the final spark to come through. Once again, knocked out of it a little bit. The Baron is going to be left alone. Bakery Boy has that Gnar ultimate, and so many players group up in this jungle. There it is to come through. The Enchanted Crystal Arrow going to hit onto that Maokai, and the CC is stacked up. Bakery Boy going to go for a little bit of a 1v1 against Samuel there, but now picked off by the rest of the team, and Bakery Boy just a little bit too out of position on the Silas there. Going to fall as the rest of the team health bar too low to finish off anything, and Kansas has flipped the Baron.
And now they're just going to do it themselves here. Look at the damage coming through from Rock Boom, though. Oh my goodness. He's on the wrong side of the rift.
He's wrong side of the rift is for sure. Rock should be able to make it out of there. There's the trap to come through. The headshot damage is so good.
Oh my
Did
goodness.
you see the health bar disappear? Ricky LaFleur getting down and dirty, up close and personal. That's 2 kills to go back over to the Saints. The TP to come back from Samuel. come right back into the fight and take a little bit too much damage to fight that one out. And the Baron is still alive. What is happening right now? This Baron has been tried 3 times now. Will this be the successful one?
I think so, and I mean...
TP from the Orianna.
Oh my goodness, Ash Arrow as well.
Ash Arrow to come through, hits Ricky Lafleur, but Jace gonna be blown up by that chain CC. Even out, 1-for-1 trades the Baron, not gonna be stolen by that Gnar. Samuel gonna fall in the pit, and Saints somehow find themselves on top of that fight. What is happening right now, Adam?
Jace, a great shockwave to almost... get 2 off of that, but a little bit too much damage coming through from Rockboom. Now 4 completed items. This is the juggernaut you got to worry about at this point, but I mean, that fight looked so good at the beginning. They Kansas turned back onto the Baron, but just a little bit too much damage coming through on the side from Rockboom, as we were mentioning, and the biggest question mark of them all. It's on the wrong side of the rift. Viego ult over the wall. There's Jax in a box just there to turn that one right around there. Imagine if he had a real weapon there. That would have been a lot more, but nonetheless, great teleport in from the Jax from Ricky Lafleur. Now 3 completed items here on this Jax. Going to be such a menace in the side lane. They've been dressed in purple now, and it's going to be so difficult to hold the line against it. The kills are even, but the gold lead, 7,000 in favor of the Saints.
Yeah, and that's really showing through when it comes to Rockboom in these team fights. 4 items completed now. Next one, Snow Oboe. Your health bar is not allowed to exist anymore. Porcelain going to be engaging right back onto Bakery Boy, but Bakery Boy using that Gnar ultimate so perfectly, shutting down that engage, and now 2 players up in the team fight. Ricky still taking down, sieging this top lane. Rockboom's able to find this one, and Baron buff is just too strong right now. Samuel cannot stop this. The final spark to come through onto Jace. Great golden from Bakery Boy. He's able to live that out just a little bit longer. They find this inhib. Should be able to find the top one from Ricky as well. The Nexus turrets starting to fall as well. Even these minions are just chunking them out with this Baron buff. Rockboom just does too much damage once again on the Caitlyn. They let the Caitlyn stay open, and the Caitlyn is putting in the work, not to mention Ricky Jax being Ricky Jax in the end. That is going to be a 2-0 coming through in NACE playoffs here for the Saints.
Caitlyn's a balanced champion. That was a 1,000 damage crit on top of the head of that Varus that really just turned around the game. You know, that was...
And then a Gale Force follow-up.
80% of his health bar? Like, I don't know what was going on there, but nonetheless, really strong game coming through from the side of Rockboom once again. Just really able to hold the line for themselves, and nonetheless, moving on to top 4. And that's a really big win for them there, because that's moving them up semifinals. Awaiting the results of Florida Southern College's game, of course, against, I believe it is Michigan Tech. Has it? I'm not 100% sure on that. Don't quote me on that. But nonetheless, it is, once again, crazy damage coming through from Rockboom. On the flip side, though, you can see the damage coming through from Jace as well. Honestly, Jace has to be, like, the ace of that series, you know.
100%.
Incredible
just,
performance.
Like, keeping Kansas in the game so much longer than they had any right to in that game, really.
Honestly.
Other than that mid lane, right, the other lanes had just about no value, if I do say so myself. I mean, it just came to Caitlyn Lux being too oppressive, and then Ricky Jax in the end, even getting ganked early on. He's down a kill. You know he's still going to be able to come back in the end. It's Jax. It's a late game split pusher, and he's able to find those 1v1s whenever he needs to.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing to keep in mind is just the fact that they played so much around bot lane, and even though Ricky was, you know, the victim of a couple of ganks there, was still able to soak up so much pressure and still find a lead over the course of both games. The Scion game, you know, your scoreline looks ugly, but you still do so much damage to structures. You're still such a pain in that side lane. You're still someone that you have to worry about. So overall, a very well coerced effort, I want to say, from the side of the Saints. Nonetheless, Kansas doing a really good job as well of making the series quite interesting. And I think, you know, big kudos to that program, a newer program, as we mentioned, you know, did give them quite the series. Give them a little bit of scare in that game 1.
Yeah, game 1 for sure. I mean, game 1 was super close up until literally until the pause. Literally until the pause came
Dramatic
through,
pause.
and you can talk about it all you want, but in the end, it was that Baron that finished game one, and it was that back and forth Baron fight, flip, and then flip back on its head, like the double flip, the triple agents for all of these teams. The Baron, whose team is the Baron on? Who knows?
Yeah.
Like at this point, it really came down to that fight, and that Baron just took them all the way through the base. Rockboom's damage at that point was off the charts.
Yeah, and I think that's the power of Caitlyn. You know, you let it through, you let him get the Caitlyn 2 games in a row. And I think after game 1, you know, it had its flashes of brilliance. I think it still had so much damage in that game. It was still a very big play point for the side of the Saints. For them to just get that again, it seemed a little bit odd in that situation to just, you know, hand that one over. And the answer was picking up the Ashe in response. Not 100% sure about that choice in that situation for Kansas there, but nonetheless, really strong performance out of Rockboom. We've seen this time and time again. It's getting old saying this every single time. Rockboom always there to give us a show with those ADCs.
Yeah, so quick summary, I guess, as we close out the night here. Game 1, close, really came down to, in my opinion, it came down to that mid lane matchup for the starting of the game, and then by the end of the game, it was just Rockboom to pull it through. And game 2, Rockboom show all the way. That game was lost in draft when you let Rockboom back on the Caitlyn, and then you allow the Lux to be paired up with that. It's just, you're leaving Kansas University just leaving their bot lane with a tough situation from draft.
It was really difficult for them to bounce back off of that, but nonetheless, strong effort, and Saints moving on to the semifinals of NACE Star League. But tonight, that about wraps us up.
I am Josh Fundy Pafundi, joined once again by Rare Adam Choles here for another great night of League of Legends, and we are going to have more. The playoffs are not done. The semifinals are on the way, but that is going to be it for us tonight. Shout out to the production team for getting us through all of that, draft pauses, everything in between. That is going to be all. Good night, Saints.
To use both of those summoners already, so nonetheless, Bakery Boy going to have a little bit less impact in this early stage with Alonso's bot side here. Can they make the play work?
There's the point and click route to come through. A great combo of abilities there, and that's going to be first. Would even possibly go for a risky dive here, but just going to opt to push that one out as all the action heads towards the bot lane. Porcelain going to solo that dragon to come through, but the ultimate from Alonso just going to...
So they've been able to split them out vertically at this point. They've been sort of able to recover at that. Rockboom going to be able to dodge away from the enchanted crystal. Here comes Alonso, though. This could be a really big fight.
Moonglade gonna get rooted, but that ultimate gonna miss just in the last second. Rockboom, Gale Force is good onto Snovo. Snovo's health bar getting dangerously low. There's the route to come through. Ace in the hole to fit. Now back to Viego here.
Oh my goodness.
Engage onto Erase. Erase taking so much damage. Final Spark to come out before death. Now, Porcelain is on this Lux. There's the flash from Rock. They're not even needing to split push right now. Just going to team up with the team. There's the final spark to come out. Bakery Boy to find the first kill onto Porcelain. Ricky LaFleur just knocking down Snovo in the back line there. Rockboom to fall. There's the Orianna. What? But now it's down to a 4v4. Erase finds the first engage there. Final spark is up in just a second, but Ricky dangerously low. Bakery Boy... It's actually a race to find that kill. Bakery Boy gonna fall in the end. Alonso in a race. You don't have the damage to fight this out. Final Spark, he knocks him out of it. Jace not gonna fall. Double root from Erase, but Erase falls.
That Everfrost afterwards to just continue that crowd control. Bakery Boy, nice dodge.
Yeah, nice sidestep onto that one. The root to come through on Jace, but the damage on Erase tacking on. There's the Scuttle Fruit to be able to bring him just enough to stay alive. Rockboom gonna turn the fight.
The Caitlyn just be able to fire onto the enemies. They're actually just going to drop the damage. Oh my goodness.
There's the final spark to come through. Once again, knocked out of it a little bit. The Baron is going to be left alone. Bakery Boy has that Gnar ultimate, and so many players grouped up in this jungle. There it is to come through. The Enchanted Crystal Arrow going to hit onto that Maokai, and the CC is stacked up. Bakery Boy going to go for a little bit of a 1v1 against iSamuel there, but now picked off by the rest of the team, and Bakery Boy just... he's wrong side of the rift is for sure. Rock should be able to make it out of there. There's the trap to come through. The headshot damage is so good.
Oh my
Did
goodness.
you see the health bar disappear? Ricky LaFleur getting down and dirty up close.
So, and I mean,
TP from the Orianna.
oh my goodness, Ash Arrow as well.
Ash Arrow to come through.
Oh.
It's Ricky LaFleur, but Jace is going to be blown up by that chain CC. Even out, 1-for-1 trades the Baron. Not going to be stolen by that Gnar. Samuel going through when it comes to Rock Boom in these team fights. 4 items completed. Next one, Snow Oboe. Great golden from Bakery Boy. He's able to live that out just a little bit longer. They find this inhib. Should be able to find the top one from Ricky as well. The Nexus turrets starting to fall as well. Even these minions are just chunking them out with this Baron buff. Rock Boom just does too much damage once again on the Caitlyn. They let the Caitlyn stay open, and the Caitlyn is putting in the work, not to mention
forced to use both of those summoners already. So nonetheless, Bakery Boy going to have a little bit less impact.